The first thing he remembered was darkness. A weightless, silent darkness that pressed against his mind like an endless void. Then, a faint hum, rhythmic and soft, began to pierce the blackness. It was mechanical, but gentle, almost soothing. His mind struggled to take form, to wake, to remember. His body felt heavy, stiff, and alien, as if it belonged to someone else entirely. He tried to move, but the effort was slow and clumsy. Muscles remembered nothing, bones remembered nothing, yet a deep part of him knew he had been somewhere, done something, lived before. Light seeped in through a narrow slit in the ceiling above. It was pale, bluish, and cold, painting the walls with long, strange shadows. The room, or pod, he realized with some shock, was circular, metallic, and far too clean to be anything natural. The air smelled faintly of metal and something sweet, chemical but not unpleasant. His eyes blinked rapidly, adjusting to shapes and colors he barely recognized. Everything seemed both familiar and alien, like seeing a childhood house rebuilt in a distant future. He forced himself upright, hands trembling as they touched the cold surface around him. A panel next to the pod lit up as he moved. Words appeared in a language he almost remembered, letters glowing softly. Rebirth complete. Time. 15,000 years later. The numbers made no sense at first. 15,000? Years? He pressed his palm against his forehead, trying to recall. The memories were like scattered shards of glass, bright, painful, and incomplete. He remembered laughter, warmth, and light. He remembered cold, steel, and screams. He remembered faces, friends, enemies, but all blurred, fading, gone. And then, nothing. He stepped out of the pod, legs unsteady, taking the first real look at his surroundings. The pod was inside a large building, or what had once been one. Broken walls, crumbling floors, and shattered panels hinted at age. Yet there were signs of repair, small patches of metal, wires reconnected, lights flickering in an almost conscious rhythm. Whoever had built this had not been careless. They had waited or prepared, or maybe he had. The floor hummed beneath his boots as he moved, sending echoes through the empty hall. Silence pressed around him like a living thing. He tried to call out, to speak, but his voice cracked, unfamiliar in this strange time. No answer came, only the whisper of his own breath and the hum of the pod machinery. He wandered deeper into the building, guided by instinct rather than reason. Doors led to halls, halls led to staircases, staircases led to openings, where the light from outside spilled in. And when he stepped into the open, he froze. The world was not as he remembered it. The sky was pale violet, streaked with colors he could not name. Trees, enormous and twisted, stretched high into the sky, leaves shimmering like metal under the soft sunlight. Rivers flowed thick and slow, glowing faintly in some places. Mountains rose in jagged formations, not natural, but deliberate, as if sculpted by a hand that had once belonged to humans or something far older. And scattered among all this, half buried in sand or moss, were ruins. Buildings he recognized but could not. Towers that resembled city halls, bridges broken yet standing, streets cracked but still laid out in straight lines. He walked, each step cautious, each breath shallow. His mind struggled to grasp what he was seeing. How could the Earth have changed so much? How could humanity, if it still existed, have allowed this? And yet, a deep part of him whispered a different possibility. Maybe humanity had not failed completely. Maybe it had evolved. Maybe he was not alone. Hours passed, or perhaps days. He could not tell. Time had a different shape here, bending strangely as he moved through the ruins. He found food, of a kind his body recognized though he could not place it, fruits of brilliant colors, clear water flowing from small underground springs. warmth from the sun that felt like it had been waiting for him. Slowly, strength returned. His body remembered walking, running, lifting. His mind began to remember more, fragments of his life before. The reasons for the stasis, the people he had known, the mistakes he had made. And yet, the bigger picture remained unclear. The first sign that he was not alone came in the form of footprints. At first he thought they were illusions, remnants of some strange geological formation, but the prints were too precise, too human. They ran along the edge of a broken bridge, vanished into a collapsed street, and reappeared near the base of a massive tower. Heart-pounding, he followed them cautiously, instinctively keeping to the shadows. The tower was immense, spiraling high above the trees. Its surface was scratched and dented, but a faint glow pulsed from within. The footprints led straight to a large door, one that had been carefully reconstructed. And then he saw movement, a shadow, fleeting and quick, vanishing before he could focus on it. Fear rose in his chest, a cold and sharp sensation. He wanted to call out, but something inside warned him not to. Whoever, or whatever, was here might be friend or foe. And yet curiosity won. He stepped forward, placing his hand on the smooth metal of the door. It opened silently, revealing a small room. Inside, he found a single figure. The figure lay on a raised platform, motionless at first. It was another human, or had been. Its body was pale, almost translucent, and wires ran along its arms and legs, connecting it to some unseen machine beneath the floor. A soft hum came from the platform, matching the rhythm of the pods he had emerged from. He hesitated, unsure what to do. Then, almost instinctively, he reached forward and touched the figure's arm. A shiver ran through him, as if the touch had connected him to something far beyond himself. Lights flickered along the body, and a soft beep echoed through the room. The figure stirred, eyelids fluttering open. Eyes met his, wide and uncomprehending. Then recognition, faint and flickering, passed across the face. You're awake," the figure whispered, voice hoarse but distinctly human. He nodded, unable to speak at first. Words felt heavy, almost foreign, as if the mouth had forgotten how to form them. I woke up too," he finally managed. The other human blinked, confusion and relief warring across their face. How long have we been?" 15,000 years, he said, words tasting strange but correct. Silence filled the room, heavy and profound. Outside, the violet sky shifted, clouds of glowing mist rolling slowly over the horizon. The ruins of the city seemed to watch them, silent witnesses to a story neither of them fully understood. The figure sat up slowly, testing muscles that had not moved in ages. "I thought I was alone," they admitted. "I thought there was no one left, that humanity was gone." He shook his head, realizing something that both frightened and exhilarated him. "It seems we were not the only ones," he said. Questions rose unbidden, unending and urgent. Who had rebuilt these pods? Why had they been left scattered across the planet? Were the other humans awake? And if they were, what would they be like? Were they allies, enemies, or something else entirely? Outside the tower, a faint sound carried on the wind, a low hum, distant and rhythmic, repeating the pulse of the pod machines. He knew then that this world, this Earth, was not empty. Something had survived. Something had waited. Something had prepared for their return. The other human looked at him, fear giving way to a tentative hope. We have to find them, the others," they said. "If we are not alone, we must know who else is alive." He nodded. A spark ignited in his chest, a sense of purpose that had nothing to do with survival and everything to do with discovery. For the first time since awakening, he felt truly alive. They stepped out together into the glowing wilderness, the ruins stretching endlessly before them. Every step carried questions and uncertainty, but also a strange comfort. Humanity, it seemed, had not entirely vanished. Somewhere, hidden across the planet, others waited, and they would find them. They had to. The wind shifted, carrying scents of alien flowers and decaying metal. The trees shimmered, casting strange, dancing shadows over the ground. And somewhere, deep beneath the surface, machines hummed, keeping time, waiting for the next movement, the next awakening. He did not know what lay ahead, whether it would be danger, discovery, or revelation, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He was not alone. Humanity had returned. And for the first time in 15,000 years, he felt the thrill of being part of something greater, a story not yet finished, a world waiting to be reclaimed. They walked on, side by side, into the violet horizon, past ruins and rivers, mountains and forests, every step a step toward an unknown future. Every step a step toward others like them. Every step a step toward reclaiming a legacy thought lost, a past remembered in fragments, a future they would write together. And as they disappeared into the glowing landscape, the hum of the pods echoed softly, a heartbeat for a world reborn. The wind shifted again, carrying with it scents both strange and familiar. The reborn humans moved cautiously through the ruins, side by side, each step a mixture of curiosity and caution. The violet sky stretched endlessly above them, streaked with colors neither of them could name. The ruins were vast, endless in every direction, yet there was a strange order to them, as if someone, or something, had deliberately shaped the remains of civilization. Broken towers, half-buried streets, shattered bridges. They were scattered, but somehow they told a story, a map waiting to be read. The first question came without warning. "Do you remember anything?" the other human asked, voice barely a whisper. He shook his head. "Some things, faces, sounds, feelings, but nothing complete. It's like trying to hold water in my hands. It slips away." The other human nodded, eyes scanning the ruins. "I remember fragments. I see places I've never been, but they feel familiar. And I hear voices, sometimes. But no one is there. It's confusing." They walked on, silence falling between them, filled only by the soft crunch of their footsteps on the cracked earth. Occasionally, a gust of wind would stir dust from broken buildings, swirling it around them like a curtain. Shadows stretched across their path, twisting with the shapes of fallen towers and collapsed walls. It was beautiful, in a strange, alien way. Yet it reminded them of everything lost. After hours, or perhaps days, for time seemed to move differently here, they came to a wide valley. The ground dipped and rolled, covered in glowing grass that shimmered with faint light. Strange trees rose on either side, their leaves twisting and glinting as if made of glass. The valley stretched far and wide, and in the distance, faint lights blinked, scattered across the landscape. He stopped, breath catching. "Do you see that?" The other human nodded. "I think others? Maybe other humans?" Excitement and fear mingled in their hearts. If others had been reborn, as the pod suggested, then humanity had survived in some form. But who were they? What had they become in 15,000 years? The unknown was terrifying, yet irresistible. They moved toward the lights carefully, avoiding open ground where they could be seen. As they approached, shapes began to take form, figures moving deliberately, each carrying tools, supplies, or devices they did not recognize. The humans looked like them, and yet they were different. Their movements were precise, almost practiced, as if memory and instinct had been sharpened by time and purpose. One of the figures noticed them and stopped. its head tilted, scanning the newcomers. Then, after a long pause, it raised a hand in greeting. "You are awake too," the figure said, voice calm but curious. He nodded. "Yes, we woke up. We are, like you." The figure studied them for a long moment before nodding. "Yes, you are reborn, as we are. You were meant to awaken. So were we." The other human looked around, eyes wide. "How many of you are there?" "Not many," the figure said. "We are scattered. Some are near, some far. But we are aware of each other. The machines, the pods, they keep track. They prepare us, bring us back when the time is right. You are late, or perhaps just in time." He frowned. "The pods, they brought us here? Why?" The figure gestured to the glowing valley. "To survive, to learn, to remember. The world is changing and humanity's role must be proven again. Those who awaken are the test. Those who survive, they shape the future." Questions tumbled through his mind. Who had created the pods? Who had built the machines that now hummed silently beneath the earth? And what did it mean to prove humanity again? But before he could speak, the figure turned and began walking toward a large structure at the edge of the valley, a building that had survived remarkably intact. The others followed, curiosity overcoming caution. The building was immense, circular, and made of a strange alloy that shimmered faintly under the violet sky. Its doors opened silently, revealing a large hall filled with screens, consoles, and devices that hummed with energy. Figures moved with purpose, some repairing equipment, others studying maps projected in glowing light. "This is a base?" the other human asked. "In a way," the figure replied. "We call it the watch point. Here we monitor the world. Here we plan. Here we remember." They were shown to a central platform, where a large map of the planet glowed in holographic detail. Mountains, forests, rivers, and cities were marked, and small lights flickered, representing other reborn humans. Each light was a story, a life, a fragment of memory brought back from the past. "You are not alone," the figure said, voice soft but firm. "There are others. Each of you has awakened for a reason. Each of you carries knowledge, skills, memories. Together, you can rebuild, reclaim, understand. Alone, survival is uncertain. Together, humanity may rise again." The weight of the words sank in. They were not just survivors. They were chosen, reborn for a purpose that stretched beyond themselves. The thought was both exhilarating and frightening. Over the next days, they learned more about the others. Small groups had formed, each in their own hidden locations, communicating through a network of machines and signals. Some were scientists, engineers, thinkers. Others were warriors, guides, explorers. Each brought something unique, a fragment of humanity preserved through time. He listened carefully, absorbing everything. Knowledge of the past, strategies for survival, warnings about dangers, both natural and artificial. The world had changed in 15,000 years. New species had evolved, some intelligent, some hostile. Machines built long ago still patrolled certain regions, maintaining systems they no longer fully understood, and scattered across the planet were ruins, ancient and mysterious, filled with secrets that could help or harm those who discovered them. Yet the most important lesson was simple. They were not alone. Humanity had survived, in fragments, in pods, in machines, and now they were coming together. The days passed in a blur of activity. He learned to operate devices, to read the holographic maps, to communicate with other groups. The other human who had awakened with him became his companion, a partner in exploration and survival. Together, they ventured beyond the valley, exploring forests of shimmering trees, rivers glowing faintly in the dark, and mountains that seemed to reach into the very sky. Everywhere they went, signs of other humans appeared. Footprints, tools, shelters, even messages etched into walls or projected through small devices. The sense of community, even among strangers, was immediate and profound. They were not alone in the world, and the thought filled him with a strange joy he had not expected to feel. But there were dangers as well. Some regions were unstable, filled with collapsed structures or strange energy fields. Creatures evolved in the absence of humans, some curious, others aggressive. Machines once meant to serve humans had malfunctioned or gone rogue, patrolling areas without mercy. Each expedition carried risk, yet each discovery brought new knowledge, new hope. One evening, as the violet sky deepened into a richer shade, he and his companion stood atop a small hill overlooking the valley. Lights from the watchpoint glowed softly below, and faint signals flickered in the distance. Other reborn humans, moving, waking, remembering. "I never thought I would see this," the other human said quietly. "That humanity could survive, even after so long." He nodded, feeling the truth in her words. "We were meant to be reborn. We were meant to remember. And now, we are here, together. That is enough to start." They stayed there for a long time, watching the valley, watching the lights, watching the world come alive in ways they had never imagined. The sense of isolation that had weighed on him since awakening was gone, replaced by a strange and steady determination. They had survived, and now they would thrive. The next morning brought new discoveries. A team from the Watchpoint had located a group of reborn humans living near a series of interconnected ruins. They were cautious at first, hesitant to trust newcomers, but as the team approached, recognition sparked in their eyes. Memories, fragmented but familiar, connected them in ways that words could not fully capture. They were not strangers. They were kin, part of a network, part of humanity reborn. The meetings were filled with stories, questions, and shared experiences. Each group had its own history, its own awakening, its own challenges. But together, they began to form a picture of the world. A planet scarred but resilient, alive with strange beauty. Filled with challenges, but also possibilities. Plans began to form. Small communities would connect, sharing resources and knowledge. Expeditions would explore further, mapping the planet and discovering other reborn humans. Machines and pods would be studied, understood, and used to aid survival. And always, the mission was clear. Humanity must remember, must prove itself, must rise again. He felt a sense of purpose he had never known in his previous life. Survival was no longer enough. Discovery, understanding, unity. These were the goals now. And with the other reborn humans beside him, he felt a strength he had not realized he possessed. Even as night fell, and the violet sky darkened to deep purple, the valley glowed softly. Lights flickered, shadows danced, and the hum of machines echoed faintly beneath the earth. Humanity was waking. Humanity was remembering. Humanity was rising, and he knew that this was only the beginning. The days in the valley passed quickly, though time felt strange. The reborn humans had begun to form routines, small patterns that gave structure to their existence. They explored ruins, repaired old machines, and shared stories of their past lives. Each day revealed something new. A hidden tunnel under a collapsed building, a machine that hummed with forgotten energy, a fragment of a library buried in sand. He walked with the other human who had awakened alongside him, moving carefully through a dense forest of shimmering trees. Each tree seemed alive, their leaves catching the violet light and casting strange shadows on the ground. Birds, or something like them, flitted between the branches. their feathers glowing faintly in colors that made no sense. The forest was quiet, except for the soft hum of distant machines buried beneath the earth. "This place, it's beautiful," the other human said softly, brushing her fingers over the glowing leaves. "It's hard to believe this world was ever destroyed." He nodded. It survived. In its own way, it healed. And now, so can we. Their conversation was interrupted by a faint noise, like metal scraping against metal. He froze, instincts alert. The sound came again, closer this time, echoing through the trees. He motioned for her to stay behind and move toward the source. They found a small clearing, and in the middle, a machine stirred. It was ancient, covered in moss and vines, but its movements were precise, deliberate. The metal limbs extended, retracted, scanning the surroundings. Its sensors flickered faintly, detecting their presence. He stepped forward slowly, hands raised. "We mean no harm," he said. The machine paused, analyzing him. Its movements were smooth, almost intelligent. Then, without warning, it retracted its limbs and powered down, collapsing into a heap of metal and wires. "That was strange," the other human said, stepping beside him. "Do you think it was dangerous?" He shook his head slowly. "I don't think so. It was cautious, like it was waiting for something, or someone." They continued through the forest, curiosity pushing them forward. Eventually, they reached a ridge overlooking a vast plain. In the distance, smoke rose from several points, faint but visible against the violet sky. Human settlements, perhaps, or other reborn humans building communities. "We should go," he said. "If there are others, we need to find them. We need to connect." The journey to the settlements took days. They traveled cautiously, avoiding dangerous terrain and areas where rogue machines patrolled. Along the way, they encountered remnants of the old world, collapsed bridges, flooded tunnels, and buildings half buried in glowing moss. Each site revealed fragments of history, clues about the people who had lived here long ago. When they finally reached the first settlement, they found a group of humans unlike any they had seen before. They were strong, agile, and skilled. Some had repaired old vehicles, others managed fields of glowing crops. Children played under the violet sky, their laughter ringing across the settlement. It was a small community, but it thrived. The leader of the group, a tall figure with sharp eyes, approached them. "You are reborn?" he asked, voice calm but firm. He nodded. "Yes, we woke in the pods. We were brought here. Like you." The leader studied them carefully. "Then you are welcome. But you must understand, this world is not the same as the one you remember. There are dangers everywhere. Not all humans survived, and not all machines are friendly. You must learn quickly." They were shown around the settlement, introduced to the people and the systems they had built. Energy grids hummed quietly beneath the ground, connecting buildings and machines. Water systems ran clean and clear, maintained by carefully repaired old technology. And everywhere there was evidence of ingenuity, makeshift tools, innovative structures, and clever solutions to problems that had existed for centuries. As they settled in, he felt a growing sense of purpose. They were not just survivors. They were builders, explorers, and protectors. Each action they took mattered. Each decision shaped the future of humanity. Over the following days, they joined expeditions into nearby ruins. They explored vast libraries, filled with books and machines that recorded knowledge from centuries past. They discovered vehicles that could fly, powered by energy sources they had never seen before, and they uncovered messages from other reborn humans scattered across the planet, waiting to be found. The more they learned, the clearer the picture became. Humanity had survived in fragments, scattered and isolated, each group developing in its own way. Some had relied on technology, others on agriculture, and still others on adaptation to the strange new environment. But all had one goal in common: survival and connection. One afternoon, while exploring a partially collapsed city, they found a chamber unlike any other. The walls were lined with glowing symbols, moving and shifting as if alive. A large machine in the center pulsed with energy, sending waves of light across the room. He approached cautiously, reaching out to touch the surface. The symbols responded, rearranging themselves into patterns he could almost understand. Images flashed before his eyes, cities rising and falling, humans awakening in pods, machines moving silently, and the Earth changing over millennia. It was a history, a record of survival, and a warning. "We need to study this," he said, voice barely a whisper. "This could tell us everything, about the past, and about what we must do next." The other human nodded. "And about the others? If this is a record, maybe it shows where more of them are." They returned to the settlement, bringing the knowledge with them. Over the next days, they worked with others to decipher the symbols, understand the machines, and map the locations of other reborn humans. Every discovery brought new questions, but also new hope. But not all was peaceful. Reports came in of strange creatures in the forests, some aggressive, others curious but dangerous. Machines that had once served humans were now malfunctioning, patrolling areas and attacking anything that moved. The reborn humans realized that survival was not just about finding each other. It was about understanding the world, its dangers, and the systems left behind. They trained, prepared, and adapted. The settlement became a hub of knowledge and defense, a place where humans learned to live with the world rather than simply survive. Skills were shared, strategies developed, and every human contributed in some way. One night, under the glowing violet sky, he stood on the edge of the settlement, looking out over the valley. Lights flickered in the distance, other communities, other reborn humans, and somewhere, beyond the mountains and forests, the hum of ancient machines pulsed faintly, keeping time with the world. "We are not alone," he said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. "And we will not fail. Not this time." The other human joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We have each other and the others. That is enough." He nodded, feeling the truth in her words. Together, they had found purpose, direction, and hope. The world was dangerous, strange, and unfamiliar, but it was alive, and humanity, in its scattered but resilient way, was alive too. The next morning brought new challenges. Scouts reported movement near the edge of the forest, a large group of creatures unlike anything they had seen. They were fast, intelligent, and seemed to communicate with each other. The settlement prepared defenses, and he joined a team to investigate. They approached carefully, using knowledge gained from previous encounters. The creatures moved in patterns, avoiding traps and scouting ahead. It became clear that they were not mindless. They were learning, adapting. Every step forward required strategy, caution, and teamwork. During the confrontation, he realized something remarkable. The creatures were reacting to the humans in ways that suggested recognition. They did not attack blindly, but seemed to test, observe, and retreat when outmatched. It was as if the world itself had evolved to challenge humanity, to ensure that only those who could think, adapt, and cooperate would survive. After hours of careful maneuvering, the creatures retreated. The humans returned to the settlement, exhausted, but alive. The experience left them both wary and determined. Survival would not be simple, but it would be possible. Together, they could face whatever challenges the world presented. In the following weeks, they expanded their reach, exploring new ruins and discovering additional pods. Each pod contained a reborn human, each awakening added to the growing network of knowledge, skill, and experience. The settlement became a beacon, a hub of connection and hope. And as more humans awoke, the sense of community and purpose grew stronger. One day, while studying a particularly ancient machine, he discovered a map of the world, marked with locations far beyond their current knowledge. Lights indicated where other reborn humans had been awakened, where machines still operated, and where unknown challenges awaited. This is bigger than we thought," he said, voice filled with awe. "We are not just surviving. We are part of something greater, a plan, a purpose, a test, and we are the ones who must meet it." The other human, standing beside him, nodded. "Then we must be ready. For the others, for the world, for ourselves." As night fell and the violet sky darkened to deep purple, the settlement glowed softly. Fires burned, machines hummed, and the network of reborn humans stretched across the planet, connected by knowledge, purpose, and hope. Humanity was rising again, stronger and wiser than before. And he knew that the greatest challenges were still ahead. But for the first time, he felt truly alive, not just awakened, but part of something larger, something enduring, something human. And in that moment, under the shimmering sky and glowing trees, he realized that no matter what the world held, humanity would endure, rebuild, and rise. And somewhere, far across the planet, the hum of pods pulsed faintly, waiting for the next awakening, the next step, the next chapter in a story that had only just begun. The sun rose pale and violet over the valley, painting the ruins and forests in soft light. The reborn humans had grown stronger, more confident, and more united. The settlement now buzzed with activity. Machines hummed quietly beneath the ground, lights glowed from the structures, and scouts prepared for expeditions into unknown lands. Every reborn human had a role, a purpose, a place. He and his companion walked through the central hub, watching teams coordinate, sharing resources, and planning new expeditions. The map they had discovered weeks ago remained the focus of their attention. Small lights flickered across the holographic display, indicating other humans, pods, and machines scattered across the planet. Each light represented a story, a life, a possibility. "We need to move faster," he said. "The more we connect, the stronger we become. And the world, it will not wait." The other human nodded, eyes fixed on the glowing map. "We have to awaken the others. Find them before dangers grow stronger. Every day counts." Their plan was ambitious. Teams would split, each heading to different regions marked on the map. Some areas were known, previously explored, but most were uncharted, filled with unknown machines, strange creatures, and hidden dangers. But the reborn humans were ready. They had trained, learned, and adapted. Their survival was no longer chance. It was skill, knowledge, and determination. The first expedition moved through the forest, following a faint signal from a distant pod. The journey was long and challenging. Trees towered above them, their leaves shimmering in strange colors. The ground was uneven, littered with broken machines and glowing rocks. Strange creatures watched from the shadows, curious but cautious. The team moved carefully, silent and alert, communicating through gestures and signals. Hours passed. The signal grew stronger, leading them to a clearing where a pod lay half buried in moss and soil. Its surface was scratched and faded, but the faint glow of life pulsed from within. He knelt beside it, brushing away the moss and dirt. The hum of the pod was soft but insistent, like a heartbeat waiting for recognition. "Here goes nothing," he whispered, pressing the activation panel. The pod hissed and shifted, and slowly, the figure inside began to move. Eyes opened, blinking against the soft light, and the human within sat up, confused but alive. Recognition sparked between them immediately, a shared understanding that transcended words. You woke up," the newly reborn human said, voice trembling with awe. He nodded, smiling. "Yes, welcome back. We are not alone. Humanity has returned." The newly awakened human looked around, taking in the team, the forest, and the faint glow of distant settlements. A sense of wonder and hope filled their expression. I thought I was the only one. I thought everything was gone." "You are not alone," he reassured, "and together we will reclaim what was lost." As they returned to the settlement, carrying the newly awakened human, word spread quickly. The network of reborn humans grew, each awakening bringing new knowledge, skills, and connections. Communities became linked, communication improved, and a sense of purpose strengthened. Humanity was no longer scattered, it was rising. But challenges remained. Reports came in of strange disturbances, machines behaving unpredictably, creatures moving in coordinated patterns, and energy surges in areas long thought safe. The reborn humans realized that the world itself was alive in a way they had not fully understood. It adapted, tested, and challenged them at every turn. Survival was not just a matter of strength or numbers, it required intelligence, cooperation, and foresight. He led a team to investigate one of the largest disturbances. They traveled across plains, through forests, and over rivers that glowed faintly under the violet sky. The landscape was breathtaking, alien, and dangerous. Collapsed cities loomed in the distance, their ruins filled with secrets and threats alike. Eventually, they arrived at the source, a massive machine, ancient and powerful, its movements deliberate and calculated. Its surface was covered in symbols similar to those he had seen before, pulsing with energy as it scanned the surroundings. The machine was not hostile, but it was testing them, observing, assessing. "We need to understand it," he said, voice low. "It's not attacking, but it could. We must be careful." The team worked together, studying the machine's patterns, analyzing its energy, and mapping its movements. Hours passed. The machine adjusted, shifted, and finally, after what felt like an eternity, it powered down, leaving behind a faint trail of energy. "It's like it wanted to see if we were ready," the other human said. "To see if humanity could adapt, survive, and think." He nodded. "Exactly. This world is a test, and we are passing it." News of their success spread quickly, and the settlement grew in confidence. Expeditions became more frequent, connecting distant communities, awakening more humans, and uncovering the planet's secrets. Knowledge accumulated rapidly. Machines were studied and understood. Old cities were explored, revealing libraries, archives, and tools left behind. And everywhere, the reborn humans learned from each other, sharing skills and experiences, becoming stronger together. One day, as they gathered around the central map, a signal appeared, a distant pulse, faint but distinct. It came from a region untouched, unexplored, and potentially dangerous. He studied the map carefully, tracing the signal across mountains, rivers, and forests. "There's someone or something there," he said. "We need to find out what it is." The team prepared for the expedition. Supplies were gathered, strategies discussed, and paths planned. Every reborn human understood the stakes. This was more than survival. This was discovery, connection, and the continuation of humanity. They traveled for days, encountering challenges along the way. Forests grew denser, rivers swelled with glowing water, and creatures appeared that tested their courage and skill. Machines, some malfunctioning and some still precise, monitored their movements. The world was alive, observing and adapting. But the reborn humans were ready. They moved with purpose, using knowledge, skill, and teamwork to navigate the hazards. Finally, they reached the source of the signal, a hidden valley, untouched by time and human hands. In its center, a massive structure rose, a dome of shimmering metal, ancient but intact. Symbols and lights pulsed across its surface, and the faint hum of machines vibrated through the air. He approached cautiously, feeling a sense of awe and reverence. This was unlike anything they had encountered before. This is important," he whispered. "We need to understand it." Inside the dome, they discovered a network of pods, machines, and archives. Each pod contained a reborn human, some asleep, others partially awakened. The machines monitored, recorded, and maintained them, waiting for the moment of activation. This was a hub, a central point of the network that had been guiding humanity's rebirth. The team worked carefully, activating pods and assisting humans as they awoke. Each awakening brought wonder, knowledge, and connection. The network expanded rapidly, linking settlements, communities, and individuals across the planet. Humanity was no longer scattered. Humanity was rising, united, and aware of its past, present, and potential future. As the last pod activated, he stood on a raised platform looking out across the valley. Lights flickered, machines hummed, and reborn humans moved with purpose. The world had challenged them, tested them, and guided them. And humanity had answered. The other human joined him, her eyes wide with awe. We did it," she said softly. He shook his head, a smile forming. "No, we are only beginning. The world is vast, full of mysteries, challenges, and possibilities. But together, we can face anything. Together, we will rise." They returned to the central settlement, carrying knowledge, tools, and hope. Communities were connected, the network strengthened, and the planet's secrets slowly revealed. The hum of machines, the glow of energy, and the movement of humans filled the air. Humanity had returned, not as scattered survivors, but as a united force, aware of its potential and ready for the challenges ahead. In the following weeks, the reborn humans explored farther than ever before. They mapped unknown regions, studied ancient machines, and communicated with newly awakened humans. Knowledge accumulated rapidly, and strategies were refined. The world was dangerous, but humanity was prepared. One evening, as the violet sky deepened to rich purple, he stood on a hill overlooking the settlement. Fires burned, machines hummed, and the network of humans stretched across the valley. Every light, every movement, every sound was a testament to survival, perseverance, and hope. "We have come so far," the other human said, joining him. "And yet, there is so much more to do." He nodded, feeling the weight and responsibility of their journey. "Yes, but we have each other. And we have the world. Humanity will rise again, stronger than before. We will face the challenges, uncover the secrets, and reclaim our place in this world." The wind shifted, carrying the sense of glowing forests and distant rivers. Creatures moved in the shadows, machines hummed beneath the earth, and the violet sky stretched endlessly. It was a world alive with possibility, danger, and wonder. And humanity, in its reborn form, was ready. He looked at the other human and smiled. "This is only the beginning. The story of humanity is far from over. We will write it together." And as night fell, the valley glowed softly under the stars. Lights flickered in the distance, pods hummed faintly, and the reborn humans moved with purpose. Humanity had awakened, remembered, and united. The challenges ahead were many, but they were ready. Together they would rise, explore, and reclaim the legacy of their species. The future was vast, uncertain, and alive, and humanity would meet it with courage, wisdom, and hope.